April 3rd, 1968, Memphis, Tennessee, 7:47 p.m., Ellis Auditorium, the house lights dim. 12,000 people fill every seat. The air hums with anticipation. Cameras flash. Programs rustle. Conversations fade to whispers. Then silence. A single spotlight cuts through the darkness. It finds the stage. Empty. The orchestra begins, soft at first, then building, and then he appears. Elvis Presley. Black leather. Gold belt. The crowd erupts, screaming, cheering. 12,000 voices become one roar. But something is different tonight. Elvis walks to the microphone, his face serious. No smile, no trademark grin. The band plays the intro to his opening number. He raises his hand. The music stops. The crowd quiets. Confused, waiting. Elvis leans into the microphone, his voice low, steady. "I need to tell you something." The auditorium falls completely silent. You could hear a pin drop. 12,000 people hold their breath. What Elvis says in the next 3 minutes will echo for decades. What he does will define him beyond the music, beyond the fame, beyond everything America thinks they know about Elvis Presley. But to understand this moment, we need to go back. Not far. Just 24 hours. To a motel balcony, to a single gunshot, to the moment everything changed. Quick thought, have you ever been somewhere when history happened? When the world shifted and you felt it in real time? Drop a comment. This is the story of April 3rd, 1968. The story of what Elvis said when the world was breaking. And why those words still matter today. Here is the story. April 2nd, 1968. One day before the concert. Memphis, Tennessee. The Lorraine Motel, room 306. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. stands on the balcony, 6:01 p.m. A single rifle shot cuts through the evening air. Dr. King falls, blood pools on the concrete. His aides rush to him, screaming for help, screaming for an ambulance, screaming at God. By 7:05 p.m., Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is pronounced dead. He was 39 years old. The news spreads like wildfire. Radio broadcasts interrupt regular programming. Television networks cancel shows. Walter Cronkite removes his glasses, wipes his eyes, delivers the news to millions. America stops, then explodes. Within hours, riots break out in over 100 cities. Washington, D.C. burns, Chicago burns, Baltimore burns. The National Guard deploys to 29 cities, federal troops to 11. President Johnson addresses the nation. We can achieve nothing by lawlessness and divisiveness among the American people. But the streets don't listen. Buildings burn, windows shatter, people die. By week's end, 43 people will be dead, over 3,500 injured, 27,000 arrested, 65 million in property damage, the worst civil unrest since the Civil War. And in Memphis, where the bullet was fired, the city holds its breath. Curfews imposed, schools closed, businesses shuttered. Fear hangs over the city like smoke. And scheduled for April 3rd, the very next night after the assassination, is Elvis Presley's first concert in Memphis in 13 years. Ellis Auditorium. 12,000 tickets sold, months of planning, millions of dollars invested. The question everyone asks is simple. Will Elvis cancel? April 3rd, 1968. Morning. Graceland. Elvis paces the living room. He hasn't slept. His manager, Colonel Tom Parker, sits on the couch. Red West, Elvis's bodyguard and friend since high school, stands by the window. The television plays news coverage on loop, smoke rising from cities across America. Chaos, violence, grief. Colonel Parker speaks first. "Elvis, we need to make a decision." Elvis doesn't look at him, just keeps pacing. The colonel continues. "The city's a powder keg. One spark and it goes up. We should postpone. Reschedule when things calm down." Red nods. "He's right, boss. It's not safe. For you, for the audience, for anyone." Elvis stops pacing. Looks at the television. A reporter interviews people on Beale Street, Memphis's historic black neighborhood, faces filled with pain, anger, loss. Elvis's voice quiet. "What do you think Dr. King would want?" The colonel frowns. "Elvis, this isn't about—" Elvis turns to face him. "What do you think he would want? More violence, more division, or people coming together?" The colonel stands. "This isn't political, Elvis. This is business, safety, common sense." Elvis shakes his head. "This is exactly political. Everything's political now. You saw what happened. They killed him because he stood for something." Red steps forward. "Boss, I get it. But if something happens tonight—" Elvis cuts him off. "Then something happens. But we don't hide. We don't cancel. We show up." The room falls silent. The colonel tries one more time. "Elvis, think about this rationally." Elvis's voice rises. "Rationally. They shot a man on a balcony for wanting equality, for wanting peace. Where's the rational in that?" He walks to the window, looks out at the gates of Graceland. A crowd of fans always gathered there, even today, even with the world burning. "We do the show." The colonel sighs. "It's your decision." Elvis nods. "It is, and I've made it. But there's something else, something forming in Elvis's mind, something he hasn't told anyone yet, something that will define this night." Red watches him. "Boss, you okay?" Elvis doesn't answer, just stares out the window. To understand what Elvis is thinking, you need to understand who Elvis is. Not the image, not the movies, not the screaming girls and gold records, the real Elvis. Born January 8, 1935, Tupelo, Mississippi, a shotgun shack, 2 rooms, no running water. His parents, Vernon and Gladys, dirt poor. Elvis grew up in the black neighborhood. His best friends were black kids. He attended the Assembly of God church. But on Sunday nights, he'd sneak to the black Pentecostal church, East Tupelo Colored Methodist Episcopal Church. He'd sit in the back, listen to the gospel music, feel the spirit, feel the soul. That music changed him, shaped him, became the foundation of everything he would create. When Elvis was 13, his family moved to Memphis. Lauderdale courts, public housing, again in a predominantly black neighborhood. Beale Street became his second home. He'd walk those streets, listen to the blues pouring from the clubs. B.B. King, Rufus Thomas, Sister Rosetta Tharpe. Elvis absorbed it all. And when he walked into Sun Records in 1954, what came out was something new. Black music, white voice, gospel passion, blues pain, country soul. They called it rock and roll. But Elvis knew where it came from. He never forgot. In 1956, during an interview, a reporter asked him about his influences. Elvis didn't hesitate. "The colored folks been singing it and playing it just like I'm doing now, man, for more years than I know. I got it from them." That honesty made some people uncomfortable. This was 1956, segregation still law in the South, black and white water fountains, back of the bus, separate but never equal. But Elvis didn't care about those rules. His band, from the very beginning, often included black musicians when he could get away with it. His influences he named freely. Arthur Crudup, Big Mama Thornton, Fats Domino. When other white artists tried to distance themselves from black music, Elvis embraced it. Some called him a thief, stealing black music for white audiences. Elvis's response was always the same. "I'm not stealing, I'm sharing. And they should get credit, they should get paid, they should get respect." In 1957, Elvis performed in Tupelo, his hometown, Mississippi-Alabama Fair and Dairy Show. 2 shows scheduled, one for whites, one for blacks, separate. As required by law, Elvis agreed to perform, but with one condition. The second show for the black audience, he'd perform for free, and he'd give them the same energy, the same respect, the same Elvis. The promoters agreed. The white show went first. Standard performance, hits, screaming girls, controlled chaos, then the black show. Elvis walked on stage, looked at the faces looking back at him. These were his people, the people who gave him the music, the soul, the fire. He performed for 90 minutes, gave them everything. When he finished, He bowed, deep, respectful, then said into the microphone, "Thank you for the music. Thank you for what you've given the world." That story never made the white newspapers, but it traveled through the black community, word of mouth. This white boy who respects us. This white boy who knows where the music comes from. This white boy who sees us. In 1968, as Elvis paces his living room the morning after Dr. King's assassination, he carries all of that with him. The music, the respect, the debt, the love. He knows what he has to do, but he hasn't figured out how to say it yet. 3:00 p.m. Elvis arrives at Ellis Auditorium for sound check. The building surrounded by police, Memphis Police Department, Tennessee Highway Patrol, FBI agents, security tighter than it's ever been, the city still on edge, smoke still rising from some neighborhoods. National Guard trucks patrol the streets. Elvis walks through the back entrance, his band already on stage. Guitarist Scotty Moore, bassist Bill Black, drummer DJ Fontana, background singers the Jordanaires. They're running through the set list. Elvis joins them, but his mind is elsewhere. Scotty notices. "Elvis, you with us?" Elvis snaps back. Yeah, I'm here. Let's take it from the top." They run through the songs. Hound Dog, Don't Be Cruel, All Shook Up, Love Me Tender, the hits, the crowd pleasers. But something's missing. The energy, the joy, the Elvis spark. After an hour, Scotty stops playing. "Elvis, what's going on?" Elvis sets down his guitar, walks to the edge of the stage, looks at the empty seats, 12,000 of them, soon to be filled with people, people who paid to escape, to forget about the world outside, to just hear music. But Elvis can't forget. He turns to his band. "What do we say tonight?" Scotty frowns. "What do you mean?" Elvis gestures vaguely. "Out there, everything that's happening. Dr. King, the riots, Memphis. What do we say about it?" The Jordanaires exchange glances. One of them, Neil Matthews Jr., speaks carefully. "Elvis, we're musicians. We're not politicians. We're here to entertain." Elvis shakes his head. Dr. King was a preacher, but he stood for something. He used his voice for more than sermons. Bill Black speaks up. "Elvis, people are coming tonight to forget all that, to just have fun, to hear you sing. Maybe that's enough." Elvis considers this. Maybe. But he doesn't sound convinced. Red West, watching from the wings, knows that look. Elvis has made up his mind about something. Red just doesn't know what yet. 5 p.m., 2 hours before showtime. Elvis in his dressing room, alone. He sits in front of the mirror, stares at his reflection. Black leather costume laid out, hair pomade ready, makeup artist waiting outside, but Elvis doesn't move. He thinks about his mother, Gladys. She died in 1958, 10 years ago. She'd raised him to respect everyone, to see people as people. She'd worked alongside black maids and cooks when Vernon couldn't find work. She'd sung gospel with black women in the church. She'd taught Elvis that skin color meant nothing. Character meant everything. If she were alive today, what would she want him to do? Elvis knows the answer. A knock on the door. "Come in." Red enters. "Boss, we need to start getting you ready." Elvis nods. "Red, can I ask you something? If you were me, what would you say tonight?" Red sits down. Honestly, I'd thank Dr. King. I'd thank him for everything he did, for what he tried to do, for his courage." Elvis looks at him. "That simple? That's simple. What if people don't like it? Then they don't like it. But it's the truth. And you've never been afraid of the truth." Elvis stands. "You're right." He puts on the black leather, combs his hair, looks at himself in the mirror one more time. Tonight, he's not just Elvis Presley, entertainer. Tonight, he's Elvis Presley, human being, and he's going to act like it. 7:30 p.m., backstage. The roar of the crowd filters through the walls. 12,000 people. They've come despite everything, despite the fear, despite the uncertainty. They've come for escape, for music, for Elvis, Colonel Parker finds Elvis in the wings. Elvis, I'm begging you. Do the show. Just the show. Don't make a statement. Don't get political. Elvis looks at him. I respect you. You've made me a lot of money. You've built my career. But tonight, I'm doing what I need to do. The Colonel's face reddens. You're going to divide your audience. Half will love it. Half will hate it. That's not good business. Elvis's voice stays calm. I don't care about the business tonight. The Colonel stares at him. This is a mistake. Maybe. But it's my mistake to make. The Colonel walks away, shaking his head. Red approaches. You ready, boss? Elvis takes a deep breath. Ready. The house lights dim. The crowd screams. The band starts. Elvis waits in the darkness, his heart pounding, not from nervousness, from purpose. The spotlight hits the stage. Elvis walks out. The roar is deafening. 12,000 people on their feet, screaming his name, reaching for him, crying. This is what they came for. The spectacle, the king, the legend. But Elvis raises his hand. The band stops. The crowd quiets. Confusion ripples through the auditorium. Elvis steps to the microphone, his voice clear, strong. Before we start tonight, I need to say something. Total silence. Yesterday, we lost a great man. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was shot and killed right here in Memphis, 6 miles from where we're standing. Some people in the audience shift uncomfortably. This is 1968, Memphis, Tennessee, Deep South. Some of these people don't want to hear this. Some of these people are glad Dr. King is dead. But Elvis continues. I grew up on black music, gospel, blues, soul. Everything I am as an artist, I owe to black musicians who came before me. They gave me the foundation. They gave me the fire. He pauses. Dr. King fought for those people to be treated with dignity, with respect, with equality. He didn't use violence. He used his voice. He used peace. And someone killed him for it. Elvis's voice cracks slightly. That's not the America I want to believe in. That's not the America I want to live in, someone in the back yells. Sing, Elvis! We came to hear you sing! Elvis doesn't react, just keeps going. Tonight, we're going to do this show. We're going to play music. We're going to try to forget the world outside for a few hours. But before we do, I want us to take 1 minute, just 1 minute, to remember Dr. King, to remember what he stood for, and to hope that maybe someday we can live in the world he dreamed about. Elvis steps back from the microphone, bows his head. The auditorium falls silent. 12,000 people, motionless. Some bow their heads. Some stare straight ahead. Some wipe tears. Some cross their arms, angry, resentful. But no one leaves. No one shouts. The silence holds. 60 seconds feels like an hour. Finally, Elvis raises his head, steps back to the microphone. Thank you. The band starts. The opening chords of Jailhouse Rock, and Elvis transforms. The entertainer returns. He moves. He shakes. He sings with everything he has. The crowd erupts. They dance. They scream. They forget, just like they came to do. But something has changed, something fundamental. Elvis gave them permission to feel, to grieve, to remember, and now to celebrate life through music. The show runs for 2 hours. Elvis performs 23 songs. Every hit, every move, every smile. But in the back of his mind, he carries that minute of silence, that act of respect, that stand. When the show ends, Elvis leaves the stage, drenched in sweat, exhausted, but at peace. Red meets him backstage. How do you feel? Elvis smiles. I feel like I did the right thing. The Colonel appears, silent. He doesn't congratulate Elvis, doesn't scold him, just nods once and walks away. The reviews come in the next day, mixed. The Memphis Commercial Appeal writes, Elvis Presley, in a surprising move, dedicated a moment of silence to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. before his concert. The gesture was met with mixed reactions from the audience. Variety magazine. Presley's political statement may alienate some fans, but showed courage and conviction rarely seen in entertainers. Some fans write angry letters. "How dare you support that man? You've lost a fan forever. Stick to singing." But other letters arrive too. "Thank you for your courage. My son was at the concert. He came home changed. You honored a hero. God bless you." The black newspapers cover it differently. The Chicago Defender. Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, paid tribute to the king of the civil rights movement. In a sea of white faces, he stood for what was right. Jet magazine. Presley's moment of silence for Dr. King was brief, but meaningful. He used his platform for good. Word spreads in the black community. Elvis stopped his show. Elvis honored Dr. King. Elvis stood up when others stayed silent. For some, it confirms what they already knew. For others, it's a revelation. This white boy from Mississippi sees us, respects us, remembers where the music came from. In the years that follow, Elvis continues to honor black artists. In interviews, he names them, credits them, insists they deserve recognition. When he performs in Vegas in the 1970s, he brings black artists on stage with him, shares the spotlight, shares the applause. In 1973, Elvis performs at the Houston Astrodome, largest indoor audience ever, 60,000 people. During the show, he stops between songs, brings out a young black singer, J.D. Sumner, hands him the microphone, lets him sing a gospel song, solo. The crowd sits confused. This isn't what they paid for. But Elvis stands to the side, clapping, smiling, showing respect. When J.D. finishes, Elvis takes the mic. "This man right here has more soul in his pinky finger than most people have in their whole body. Let's give him the respect he deserves." The crowd erupts. Not because Elvis told them to, but because Elvis showed them how. In 1974, Elvis receives the JC's Award, one of 10 outstanding young men of America. During his acceptance speech, he says, "When I was young, I didn't know the word prejudice. I just knew music. And music doesn't care what color you are. It only cares if you have soul. The people who gave me that soul deserve to be honored, always." Those words echo. They matter. Not because Elvis was perfect. He wasn't. He had flaws, addictions, failures, like everyone. But in this moment, on April 3rd, 1968, he chose to stand for something. He chose to use his voice. He chose to remember. When Elvis died on August 16, 1977, tributes poured in from around the world. Presidents, musicians, actors, and quietly, from the black community, tributes came too. Coretta Scott King, Dr. King's widow, sent a message. "Elvis Presley was a kind man who respected my husband's work. In our darkest hour, he showed grace." Jesse Jackson, "Elvis honored Dr. King when others stayed silent. That took courage." These tributes weren't widely published. They didn't make the front pages. But they existed. They mattered. The people who were there, in Ellis Auditorium on April 3rd, 1968, never forgot that moment. Interviews conducted years later asked them about it. Margaret Peterson, age 68, interviewed in 2018. "I was 18 years old at that concert. When Elvis stopped the show and asked for silence, I didn't know how to feel. I'd been raised to believe certain things, but watching him bow his head, watching him show respect, it made me question those things. It was the beginning of change for me." James Crawford, age 70, interviewed in 2015. "I was one of maybe 50 black people in that entire auditorium. We sat in the back. That's where we were allowed to sit. When Elvis spoke about Dr. King, I cried. Not because it changed the world. It didn't. But because someone saw us. Someone with that much power acknowledged our pain. That meant something." Robert Martinez, age 70, interviewed in 2020. "I worked security that night. We were terrified. Riots everywhere. We thought the concert would be chaos. When Elvis asked for that minute of silence, the whole building held its breath. I thought a fight might break out, but nothing happened. People just stopped and listened and remembered. That's when I knew music could do something bigger than entertainment." Quick thought. Have you ever witnessed someone use their platform to stand for something when it wasn't easy or popular? Drop a comment. The recording of that night's show was never officially released. Some bootleg recordings exist. Poor quality, muffled audio. But if you listen closely, you can hear Elvis's voice. Before we start tonight, I need to say something. You can hear the crowd quieting. Yesterday, we lost a great man. You can hear the emotion in his voice. Real, unscripted, human. That recording has circulated among collectors for decades. Traded, shared, preserved, not for its musical quality, but for its historical importance. In 2008, 40 years after that night, the National Civil Rights Museum in Memphis held an exhibit. Music and the Movement. One section focused on white artists who supported civil rights. Elvis's photo from April 3, 1968 appeared. The caption read, "On the night after Dr. King's assassination, Elvis Presley stopped his concert to honor the fallen leader. In a divided South, this act of respect was both controversial and courageous." Visitors to the exhibit often stopped at that photo, read the caption, paused. Some took pictures, some wiped tears, some nodded in approval. The exhibit ran for 6 months. Over 200,000 people visited. Many specifically mentioned Elvis's section in their feedback. One comment card read, "I didn't know Elvis did this. I always thought he was just about the music. This changed how I see him." Another, "As a black woman who grew up in the 60s, I appreciate knowing that some white people stood with us, even if it was just for a minute." Another, "My grandfather was at that concert. He told me about it before he died. Said it was the most powerful minute of silence he'd ever experienced. Now I understand why." Today, if you visit Graceland, Elvis's home in Memphis, you can take a tour. The guides tell stories about Elvis's generosity, his love of gospel, his cars, his jumpsuits. But if you ask about April 3, 1968, most guides know the story. Some tell it willingly, others gloss over it. Depends on the guide, depends on the audience. But the story exists. It's part of the history, part of the legacy. In 2018, on the 50th anniversary of Dr. King's assassination, several articles were published. Remembering Dr. King, unexpected tributes. Elvis's moment of silence appeared in most of them. Not the lead story, not the headline, but mentioned, acknowledged, remembered, because it mattered. Not because it changed the world, it didn't. Dr. King was still dead. Riots still happened. Inequality still existed. But in that one moment, in that one auditorium, in that one divided city, Elvis Presley chose to stand for something. He chose to acknowledge pain. He chose to show respect. He chose to use his voice for more than entertainment. And for some people in that audience, it planted a seed of empathy, a seed of understanding, a seed of change, not immediate, not dramatic, but real. Today, the Ellis Auditorium still stands in Memphis. It's been renamed, the Cannon Center for the Performing Arts. But the building is the same, the stage where Elvis stood, the seats where 12,000 people sat, the space where that minute of silence echoed. All still there. If you stand on that stage today, you can almost feel it. The weight of that moment, the courage it took, the risk Elvis accepted, because make no mistake, it was a risk. In 1968, in Memphis, Tennessee, speaking kindly of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. could cost you fans, money, respect from certain circles, even safety. Elvis knew this, but he did it anyway, not for publicity. The moment wasn't planned, wasn't rehearsed, wasn't designed to boost his image. It was spontaneous, genuine, human. And that's why it still matters. That's why people still talk about it. That's why the story survives. Because in a world that often feels divided, cynical, and dark, we need reminders. Reminders that people can choose to stand for something. Reminders that courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's a minute of silence. Sometimes it's bowing your head. Sometimes it's acknowledging someone else's pain. Elvis Presley wasn't perfect. He was complicated, flawed, human. But on April 3rd, 1968, he was something else too. Brave, respectful, decent. And in that moment, he showed 12,000 people that you can honor someone. You can stand for something. You can be more than your job title, more than your image, more than what others expect. You can be human. And sometimes, that's the most powerful thing you can be. The world has changed since 1968. In some ways, for the better. In other ways, we're still fighting the same battles, still divided, still hurting, still needing to remember. But the story of April 3rd, 1968 reminds us that small acts matter, that using your voice matters, that standing up, even when it's uncomfortable, matters. Elvis didn't solve racism that night. He didn't end division. He didn't bring Dr. King back. But he showed respect. He acknowledged loss. He honored a hero. And for some people in that audience, it made a difference. Maybe not immediately, maybe not obviously. But over time, in small ways, it changed hearts, opened minds, planted seeds. And that's all any of us can do. Use our voice. Stand for something. Show respect. Be human. Elvis Presley did that on April 3rd, 1968, in a divided city, on a painful night, when he could have just performed, just entertained, just ignored the world outside. But he didn't. He stopped. He spoke. He remembered. And unfortunately, they don't make men like Elvis Presley anymore.